In this section of the Salesperson Survival Guide, we're going to talk about how to focus on your customer. Now, before we get too far into the specifics here, let's take just a step back to look at the bigger picture. What is at the heart of every business, including yours? It's a very simple answer: customers. If you do not have customers paying you, you don't have a business. You have an idea, you have a hobby, but you don't have a business. When you are in the middle of deciding how you're going to respond to the difficult times that you might be facing and the economic contractions, you always have to keep the impact of any decisions that you make on how that'll affect your customers front and center. If you're going to make any changes that hurt your relationship with your customer, you're ultimately hurting yourself, because you're going to lose the people who are the most important and very center of your business. You know, airlines are a terrific example of what happens when you don't put the focus on your customer. And I know this because I actually worked for one of the largest airlines in the world. And over the last decade, airlines have really gone to very great lengths, especially US airlines, to cut costs so that they can increase profits. And what happened is that service in these airlines really declined, and customers ended up being hit with a lot of fees that they did not have the experience of having to pay in the past. And what happened was customers started getting very frustrated and fed up, and almost everyone that you've ever met that's flown anywhere has a horror story about traveling with an airline. So commercial air travel, which was once seen as a real luxury experience, has now been considered a necessary evil. And that's only going to get worse with the restrictions that are out there in a post-COVID-19 world. And the moral of this story is that you really want to keep your customers at the top of your priority list, because anytime you think about making changes, you want to consider how specifically those changes are going to impact the experience that your customer has in doing business with you. If that experience is one of your key competitive advantages, you really need to be even more careful about the changes that you're going to make, because destroying that competitive advantage may end up dealing you more problems in your business than you currently have today. So if you are going to make any changes that are going to directly affect your customer, the biggest thing you have to do is make sure that you are communicating those changes very clearly with the people who pay you every day. You want to explain to your customer base why you've decided, or why you are being forced to make the changes that you've made, and the outcomes that you anticipate happening from those changes. You know, during a time of crisis and during a time of contraction and recession, it's very, very important to keep your focus on your customers, because they're getting impacted by all of this as well. And the more transparent that you are with these customers, the more understanding that they're likely to be is when you're clear about the reason why and what's happening in your business. People, your customers, are going to remember the actions that you take right now. They're also going to remember the actions that you don't take right now. So if you seek to serve your customer, even if there is a temporary expense of profit in your business, what you're going to end up doing is building up an enormous amount of goodwill with your client base. And that is extremely important right now. You know, during the coronavirus crisis, there have been a lot of companies who sacrificed profit for the sake of their customers. And one example I can think of off the top of my head are a lot of the educational companies who have made their tools and resources free to parents who ended up being suddenly homeschooling their children almost out of nowhere, right? So an example of that is Audible, right? They gave away free audiobooks for kids. Zoom, I mean, I'm using Zoom to record this platform right now, and it's offered a lot of discounts or even free services on its video recording platform so that people can stay in touch with family, friends, and customers too. And these companies are probably losing out on a lot of potential profit by giving away their assets for free. But what is going to happen is customers are going to remember that companies like Zoom, companies like Audible were putting out so much goodwill into the marketplace that they're going to support them in the future. It's about building your brand by doing the right thing for your customer instead of being so hyper focused on your bottom line. If you keep the focus on the customer, there's going to be a much higher chance that you're going to weather through this economic contraction and the difficult times that you may be facing right now.